Why did the university claim you've been acting in bad faith over these last... Well, how long have the disputes been going on now? Since, is it December or is it way back before then?
The dispute was announced in November. The university have recently said that we've been acting in bad faith because we've been talking to them at ACAS, and now we want to take a strike action even though they were still talking to us.
Okay, what exactly is ACAS?
ACAS is the Arbitration and Conciliation Service. It's an independent government body that comes into situations where there's an industrial dispute.
Okay.
So ACAS act as a mediator or a conciliator between usually unions and management. So they've come into these and they've helped us. So they're kind of sitting between us, so we don't fight.
Yeah. But you are fighting, well, still, really.
We're in dispute, yes.
Yeah.
But we've had these very, very constructive talks where we're looking at ways of ending the dispute. Now, the university have accused of us acting in bad faith because they say that, well, after all this talking, you're now going to go on strike action. And our answer to that is, well, we've been sitting at these tables for hours and hours and hours, and no progress has been made. You've been delaying things. You've even gone back on some of the things that you agreed on 24th of February. So we would argue that they've been acting in bad faith by just dragging things out so that our strike mandate would end and then they could do what they wanted.
Do you think that you've been acting in perfect faith, as it were? Because I know Michael Arthur says that you yourselves have cut back on time to give to negotiations, and that you yourselves have been not forthcoming with some information, and there's equal claims that you make about the university seem to be being made about the UCU.
Well, let's look at those claims. We're not holding back on any information. We've given the university everything that they've asked for. They haven't given us a lot of the information that we've asked for. So that's not true that we're holding back on any information.
Okay.
We did, remember the university themselves have pointed out that there's been 8 weeks of talks, hours and hours and hours of talks. They made that point last week. It's true that the UCU tried to negotiate a few hours fewer talks over the last couple of weeks because we've got jobs to do, we've got people to teach, and it's impossible for us to do our full-time jobs and be full-time negotiators. The university, of course, the people on the university side are paid quite considerably larger salaries, and they've got much more time for these talks. So that was a little unfair of him because actually those reductions in hours were agreed by both sides. It wasn't something the UCU were pushing for.
Okay. Now he also claims that you've got quite a divisive propaganda campaign going on here. And I've spoke from a representative from Leeds University Union, and they said to me that there seems to be some quite left-wing political personalities, let's say, in the UCU.
Yeah. And
that's almost having a bit of a negative effect. It seems that you've got your mindset set on strikes, set on action, and...
No, that in itself is a propagandist kind of perspective. People in the UCU are of all political persuasions. Yes, we have some left-wing members, but not all of us are left-wing members. I wouldn't consider myself to be an extreme left-wing member, and I'm on the executive. So the executive of the UCU is of all political persuasions, the committee is of all political persuasions, and of course the membership is of all political persuasions. We could not convince our membership to give us this historic ballot if we were just being left-wing militants. That simply would not happen because the majority of our members are not left-wing militants. So that perspective you give me is just anti-UCU propaganda, I would say.
Okay.
And I'm perfectly happy to answer anything that people are accusing us of putting out as propaganda, because I think that if you look at our blog, everything is considered carefully. More than 3 people, two people at least, look at every blog before it's published. And very often there's more than 3 people who are involved in those blogs. And we're very careful to check every word to make sure that A, it's true, and B, it's not just rhetorical flannel, that there's substance to everything we're saying.
Okay, now as soon as you brought that up, I would like to read something to you which I think got released on the blog today.
Mm-hmm.
And the final chapter, or the final paragraph goes, remember, the university is now committed to a differentiated student experience on strike days. Some students will be marked absent for not turning up, and some won't. Some students will be discriminated against for refusing to cross a picket line, and others won't. Some discrimination is contrary to the university's own discrimination policies, against LUU's discrimination policies, and contrary to Human Rights Act.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that seems to be portraying the university as big bad bullies, and you, the innocent people, and the students, the people who are going to get shafted by all of this. I see that in a way as a bit of rhetorical manipulation.
Sure. Well, that wasn't on the blog, that was on Facebook. But
Okay.
it is also true. The university, some departments in the university have said, we will not mark you absent if you choose not to cross a picket line. And other schools have said, we will mark you absent if you choose not to cross a picket line.
Okay.
So,
do you know what schools these are?
the School of English and the School of History have told all their students that they won't be marked absent. So you've got a differentiated experience for students. Now the university is committed to not having a differentiated experience. All students are supposed to have the same experience. So it's true to say that some students will be discriminated against and some won't be. It's also true to say that that discrimination is embedded in both the LUU policy and the university's policy as something that should not happen. And yet it's going to happen.